We're going to start off with just this drama first.
Yeah,
we're going to
there's
go
a
into
lot.
some other after. Don't worry, we're going to get into the whole timeline here. But personally, Welcome to Keyed Up. My name is Chris, and we're heading back to the Rift for some MOBA action. League of Legends in full force now, heading towards Worlds. And we're going to bring you everything and more that's going on in the scene. Joining with me today is Davis, joining us from the production room. Kepley and Justin, how are y'all doing today?
Really good.
Doing well. Thanks for coming out of the smoke.
Excited to be back.
And coming into the queue, right? So we're queuing up.
We are queuing up.
Yeah.
We had some, drama going on this week. We've had some playoff matches going on. Teams have qualified for Worlds. We're probably about to have some of our first ones eliminated from the Eastern regions as well. A lot going on, so let's go ahead and jump into around the league here. We're going to start off with LTA. Both the North and the South have concluded their conferences, so we're going to jump into those real quick, starting with the North, where we had a heist being run by 100 Thieves to make it all the way to the Grand Finals versus FlyQuest. What did y'all think about those series?
I thought the turnaround for 100 Thieves in the playoffs has been insane. They went from objectively like the worst team in the league to competing for top 2, beating Cloud9, and a complete upset. I mean, we have a ton of C9 fans on the desk, so 100 Thieves being able to yoink that and really end their season, deny us Loki and Thanatos at Worlds was a big tragedy.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I picked against them in literally every stage of the bracket. They somehow upset Cloud9, which is just a miracle in and of itself. And then I'm like, well, there's no way they get past Shopify. They obliterate Shopify, and then they run into like the true final boss, which is FlyQuest, headed, of course, by Bwipo in the news. But I mean, just an outstanding run from these guys and a huge turnaround. I remember a few weeks back criticizing them on saying, oh, well, they're really like wasting this final run. They're not like putting their names in the hat for whoever takes the 100 Thieves spot to reacquire them. And they've completely outlived my expectations.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about that Shopify match that you mentioned, because I was kind of in that same spot. I was like, okay, they beat C9. Obviously, this is a tremendous win, but I kind of felt like the fire would have been extinguished after that. And when they played Shopify, it would just be like, Shopify is a better team, in my opinion, throughout the whole split. And I thought they would kind of not roll over them, but I definitely thought they would win the series. But then it was the complete opposite. 100 Thieves just rolled them, and they couldn't do anything. Palafox, he could not do anything in the mid lane versus Quid. He's been tremendous this whole run.
Yeah, that was a huge gap. And I also have to just admit some fault. In the past few episodes, I was very critical of 100 Thieves with the Dhokla replacing General Sniper move. But I think the results, and also, when you watch the games, you see how Sniper is, in the coach's room, cheering, reporting. It doesn't look like someone who is in a situation they didn't want to be a part of. So I think that the results have proven to me that they knew better than I did from the outside, and they've made some good moves.
Yeah, it seems like they finally just had a top lane that could just do its job. You talk about a lot of what Impact and what you want Impact to do on some of those like tank carries and like Rumble. It seems like Dhokla was able to do that for 100 Thieves, which allowed River to really just kind of, open up for his team, focus on that mid and bot lane, and really help those snowball, while Dhokla was just solid, right? Not the most impressive that we've seen, but he definitely was just a solid force, and I think that really helped them out. I admit, though, that first week that he came in, it did not look like he was like, going to turn this team around. It kind of just like the one-for-one replacement. That was just 1 week. They seem to have found, their stride for it, and now they can definitely make a run going into the LTA championship. In their first match, I believe they do have to play against Pain. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. But they still have to get to that spot, though. So, have to continue the heist a little bit. But speaking of LTA, we do have LTA South we have to go over, and this was probably one of the most one-sided grand finals I have seen. But leading up to it, Loud looked like they were maybe going to be able to make a run, and then just fell flat.
Yeah, I mean, I know Eli's gone. He's doing great things in Halo, but we got to double down on the memes from last week. He put all his eggs in that fantasy basket, and the Easter Bunny did not show up, right? So it just kind of fell short with Loud. Bit of a disappointing run from them. But I wish that we could see them. They didn't qualify. We have the bracket that we can show at some point, but I don't think that they qualified, right, to go into this next run. And so it's just disappointing that they've had such Doom as like someone we've all picked in fantasy for so long, and he's not going to be there, right? And it's just a disappointing performance from them. But overall from the season, good vibes, right? This is the LTA North bracket on your screen for folks at home that we kind of alluded to earlier. And so you can see there in the bottom, 100 Thieves does make that run, 3-2 over Cloud9, 3-0 with Shopify. I personally was never going to call that. If you called that, like, hey, good on you, ball. And then FlyQuest with the 3-1. We transition over to the LTA South where we are now. Red Canids, a team who had a very fantastic season. They upset Loud there in that lower bracket semifinal. 3-0 against Payne, a bit of a surprise, depending on your views on the game at this time. Payne is overall a pretty solid team there in the South, and then Keed Stars just continue their dominant run for split 3 and just shut down Canids. I mean, just what an outstanding performance and kind of an exciting time for the region, right? They're going to get to come to Worlds, get more experience, get to grow in that way. And overall, I'm just looking for, high performance from them.
Yeah, the Keat Stars, I think, really made a big turnaround in their season. When you were looking at the stats through the middle of the season, they started to fall off a bit. I think a lot of that was due to kind of Trimby not being able to play. They had to put Scamper in for a little bit. But now that they got Trimby back, he's just a dominant force in the bot lane. And as a fan, for my fantasy, Trimby was my cash cow from the LTA South this region. This guy was getting me so many points every week that he played. And then I perfectly saw that he wasn't playing. And I got able to get him out once Scamper was playing. So it worked really good.
Yeah, and I mean, if you watch the grand finals from Keed versus Red, it was an absolute domination. It was like the biggest speed run that I have seen up until game number 3. And then where it looks like Red may be able to come back a little bit, Bwipo was just like, no, we're just better. We're going to get into the late game. We're going to out-team fight you and then win the game with a solid 3-0. And it was one of the ones that, they tried to start the LTA North stream a little bit after the game. We had like an hour and a half of just like sitting there because of how fast that series was. This team looks amazing coming into this upper bracket final that they're going to face off against FlyQuest with. And right now, FlyQuest, especially with everything that's happening with Bwipo suspended in that first match, means that they have to sit out. And this could be Keith Star's, ability to maybe make that run. Of course, they have to get past Inspired. They have to get past, the bot lane of Busio Maso, who have been doing absolutely amazing. But with as dominant as they were in that LTA South finals match, I think they can give, FlyQuest a run for their money at the moment.
I think so, too. What do you guys think about the other 2 matches, though? Because that upper bracket match will be the next weekend after this one. This coming weekend, we get both of those lower bracket matches. If we hadn't seen Furia do so good at EWC, I do feel like it'd be very easy to come out here and just say dominant, easy, completely expected wins for LTA. I think I'm still predicting that, but it's a little less guaranteed than I thought.
I think I'm riding a little bit of the past, right? I'll be the first to admit that, but I don't think this series will be close. The last time that we had an LTA championship, North versus South, it was completely one-sided. The North, was just complete. They dominated the whole tournament. I think Liquid was the only team that dropped a game to an LTA South counterpart. And back then, it was different teams. Like a Leviathan came out of their season unscathed, undefeated. And so I just want to note that I don't think it'll be close. I think that the highest performing team and the best chance is Keed Stars purely because of the Bwipo suspension. But even then, I don't think that series will be close. And the way that 100 Thieves have been playing, they have something to prove now. And I think that Dhokla especially, we'll talk about that drama a little bit later. He's playing for a greater purpose where he wants to go into Worlds as a higher seed than FlyQuest. He's playing with purpose. And I don't think these other teams are going to match that and be able to stand against them.
Yeah, the match that I think is kind of interesting is this Canids versus Shopify one, because I think after they lost to 100 Thieves, I think that could have really downed their confidence a lot. And Canids is a team they've played really, really good throughout this whole last split of LTA South, even though they did get smacked by Keat Stars in the final. I think this could be I don't know if they're going to upset them, but I think it could be a really, really close match. And I think that's the one to look out for. I think 100 Thieves, with the form that they're on, they're probably just going to run through Payne Gaming. But if there was going to be an upset, that would be the one that I pick.
I mean, I'm exactly with you on that. I'm looking at these 2 matches, and I think 100 Thieves is going to have that confidence that they need to go into it. But at the same time, I feel like Red is also, they made their run through the lower bracket as well to get to that grand finals. I feel like they're going to come in, and Shopify, I think, is a solid team. But if we are going to see one game in that lower bracket that we do see an LTA South team tick, I do believe it is going to be Red Canids. Taking it off of Shopify. Just as you said, I think Shopify fell flat against 100 Thieves. It could really hit their mental. And I said this on Ty, whether or not we get Palafaker or Palafox, I think may make the difference in that match. If we get Palafox, I think Red is going to take it.
That is a point well said. I mean, I think that you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, in our meeting or whatever, but it's like you look at this LTA South team and they're showing a lot of improvement. They're showing a lot of momentum. And someone like Shopify, who has performed well, they haven't performed well against the top teams of the league. Like, they've dominated the mid-tier, low-tier teams. And so it is a bit of a more interesting discussion there. And I think it sets the stage that if Shopify come in and they completely sweep Red Canids, I think that that's going to echo across the stage. So Red is really going to have to plant the flag of we're LTA South and we're here to stay, in my opinion.
It should be interesting. I mean, this weekend it starts. So I did look into it. Actually, the matches this weekend will be in the LA arena, and then the grand finals will be them moving to Texas and Allen, Texas, where they'll have that grand finals there. So, of course, we'll have a lot of see how that affects, the South teams moving. So the South teams do have to come up from Brazil and then play in LA. So hopefully it doesn't affect them too much, but
Yeah.
they do have some time coming up. But let's go ahead and move across the pond. LEC has had some of its teams finally get to Worlds. G2 have been on a great run. They defeated their opponent in, I believe it was KC. They did get to face KC. They did beat KC, and then Koi ended up beating FNC in a really close 3-2 match, which was amazing to watch. And both teams have qualified for Worlds now, and then we have our upper and lower bracket set. But this G2 team, they did not look good at MSI. They go into EWC, look a lot better than they come into Split 3 and just absolutely ran everybody.
Yeah, I was laughing to myself because it's like, yeah, I told you guys G2 was here the whole time, but every time I've predicted G2 in the past, they've lost. But it's like, I keep doubling down on Caps and team, and they finally get it done with KC, so it's like, yeah, I told you guys.
This series did look really good from G2. The first game, I mean, they look really comfortable picking counter picks. Like, we saw Carmine Corp pick the Orianna first pick, and instantly the LeBlanc counter pick comes out from Caps. Then you see Broken Blade pulling out the Kled again. Like, this does feel like shades of the old G2. Not the old G2 that gets to MSI finals, but the old G2 that dominates Europe and does at least respectably. Doesn't lose to NRG.
Yeah. And it's good to see, too, because like you said, G2's that dominant force in LEC, and it just felt weird in my opinion. I mean, we've talked about this before, how I'm a big G2 fan when it comes to the LEC, and it's like not seeing them in their top form at the beginning of this year, it kind of hurt me in my opinion, because it was seeing like new teams like KC come to the top, Koi, and I like that, don't get me wrong, but it's just not my favorite team to watch, and I really enjoy watching Cavs at his absolute best. Watching him on LeBlanc is a great pick for me, so it was a good series.
Yeah, that's where Caps shines. Like, you want to give Caps the ball so he can be a hard carry.
Yeah.
You don't want Caps to be like a support mage, ideally. He's good at those, but like that's not the role you want Caps to fill. You want Caps to be able to just take over and carry the game, and you build your team around someone like Caps because he is that star level talent.
I also want him to create chaos and like have chaos around him. I don't think that this type of team plays well in a very structured format. I think they want just absolute insanity being thrown in every lane at all random times. I think Skumon actually did a really good job of, this is my episode of repairing past grievances, but I've been very critical of Skumon in the past, but he looked really good in this series, set up a lot for all of his solo lanes. Pretty sure he actually got MVP for the series as well, so kudos to him. Great play.
Yeah, and I mean, lower bracket, we did have some teams finally knocked out. BDS, Heretics were both knocked out. Heretics was a team that was kind of looking like they may have been able to make a run to try to see if they could make it through that lower bracket. Ended up falling 3-1 to Vitality. So we do have that lower bracket quarterfinal set up, which will, of course, be Fnatic versus Giant X, KC versus Team Vitality. And I'm looking at this, and I want to say that it might be close. This is one where I am going to go straight into saying that I think Fnatic and KC are just going to completely sweep Giant X and Team Vitality and move on. Both of those teams, of course, Fnatic went 3-2 versus Koi. It looked very good, especially with Poby moving on to it. And KC is just a very strong team, but they have to face a G2 team that's just been like completely just, ready to go and knows what they want to do. I don't think these two teams are going to be able to face, against these two top teams from LEC right now.
I'll give you the Carmine Corp sweep, but I'm not as sold on the Fnatic one. I think this Fnatic versus Giant X matchup is pretty spicy. We've got Noah and Jun versus their old Fnatic guys. Humanoid just got released. He's still playing, but he's not going to be on Fnatic this year. If he doesn't make Worlds this year, this is going to be the first time in like 6 years that he hasn't made it with Fnatic. So I don't know. It's one of those weird situations where are you going to get after the news drops, Humanoid goes insane and just starts dominating people, or is his performance going to taper off and we might get Noah and Jun dominating things?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I side with Chris on this. I think that those two matches are going to be one-sided, and everyone's just really looking forward to Koi versus G2, right? Because like that's the matchup we want to see, and you're already setting the stage and the expectations of we get to see Fnatic and KC in losers finals, which is like such a disappointing thing because you ideally want all of these teams at Worlds, but the reality is there's only one spot left, right? And so that's what everyone's playing for, and I think that the later stages of this bracket are going to stay really exciting, but right now it's going to be kind of a little bit of a dead period for the LEC.
And I mean, we'll have to see. The games are going to be going on into this weekend, into Monday, of course, of how LAC runs. So drop your predictions on who you think will make it through there. If I'm right or if I'm completely wrong, and Giant X may be able to take that upset. But let's go ahead and move on to LCK. We have finally started to have our playoff matches, and they started off with bangers, especially T1 versus DK. This was a 5-game series that I don't think many people thought would go to 5
Not
games.
at all.
But at the end of the day, it turned into the Curious Show once again on that Blitzcrank, aiming for bottom, I guess, at this point. I don't know what he was doing on that Smolder in game number 5. But T1 move on. They're able to get that win. This morning we had BRX versus KT. KT ended up taking a 3-1 win, which was pretty solid for them when you take a look at that. But this is setting up to be some really good matches because now we have Gen G versus KT because they can pick who they want to play, which means that we get another classic matchup of HLE versus T1 once again. And HLE has not been able to get the better of T1 in the later half of split 3 through 5 so far. So this could end up meaning that HLE fall to that lower bracket, or maybe they can get the win and finally get that revenge match and move on to face most likely Genji at this point.
Yeah, I don't want to move on too fast from the T1 and Damwon series or the DK series, but that was, I mean, you summed it up perfectly. Like, I was never going to pick that to be a close series, but it ended up being just an absolute banger. And you get down to game 5. And like you said, I mean, I'm a huge Carrier fan. I've been growing my fandom towards him. Shout out, just bought the Pike skin with the signature, right? That came out yesterday. But it's just, he really just stepped up on this blitz. And you kind of saw Damwon just go for like this kind of late game Exodia team comp where they were just hoping to scale to oblivion and become unstoppable. And it just quite didn't work out. But I mean, like, just shout out to them, man. Grade A effort, and that's like a good way to end your season.
Yeah, they had a real weird draft, kind of draft themselves in a bad position in that game 5. They ended up with a ton of magic damage and had to come up with some sort of an AD mid. They pull out the Tryndamere that we saw coming in the jungle from Inspired and LTA. I'm a big fan of Tryndamere mid, and it had a good lead, so I kind of expected it to look good. But at the end of the day, they couldn't pull it off. We're looking at the play-in bracket now.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you get to see them make that run through Fear X, advancing through, and then D plus. No real surprises in that lower bracket
Grinding
run.
it out down there.
Yeah, just I mean they're in the gauntlet, and then you transition into the next stage, and you start to see what we've alluded to now, where T1 versus D plus. I mean they're riding the momentum of that lower bracket run. They run into Faker, worst case draw scenario, and now you start to set the stage for how this bracket's going to play out. And you had mentioned KT Rolster beating Fear X, so we just have the LECK is just such a fascinating region to watch.
Well, and also it's kind of a weird region too, something random unrelated to like the specific matchups. This is technically the first LCK playoffs that we've had all year. Their format meant that they weren't having playoffs before each of these international ones. They were building up to all this year. So there's a lot of gravity, like beyond just Worlds qualifying. I think the team that wins this, like if any team can steal away this season from Gen G, it would like you rob them of such joy because they dominated for so long, but then the playoffs finally come and they could potentially lose.
I mean, we've seen it time and time again at the World Stage, right? Like if Gen G have this dominating season, something happens, they slip one time, and then you end up going into the play-ins at Worlds, right? And then through some miracle run, right, you get upset in that. Like we've seen that happen for both LPL and LCK in the past at Worlds. But it's like this would be the team. Everyone's predicting Gen G to win Worlds at this point, right?
Yeah.
And so that would just be catastrophic, for them to lose.
I mean, I think that is why Gen G did end up picking T1, despite T1 having that really close series where they didn't look the best in the games that they lost, and even the game that they won in that game number 5 did not look good for them at the very start. It did end up taking aiming to kind of, want to seemingly face check Carry and see if he could hit his hooks, and he did, which turned the game around. But that was the only series that they've lost in rounds 3 through 5 was once to T1. So that shows that they still have a lot of respect for the team. They don't want to put that on the line, going into round 2. But the D plus versus Furax, I am really interested to see because obviously DK was the only team in that Rise group that went positive in the games category. But then Furax was able to beat them in the play-ins, which got them into that upper bracket to get into the playoffs first. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays off once again because D plus did look really good versus T1, and maybe they could end up making a run through that lower bracket.
Who do you think takes that matchup? Sorry, I cut you off. You're good.
Right now, I am going to actually go for Furax. I don't know. Aiming right now just hasn't felt on par for me. If he doesn't play like absolutely 100%, he ends up looking like that game 5 ends up throwing a lot of the matches. I just don't know if he'll be able to recover from that in the amount of time that he needs. And then Furex just had a really good win off of they, made that good run that they know they can beat them in the play-ins. And then I think they can maybe just use that one more time to beat them, to knock them out first.
One thing that I was going to mention about the D plus versus T1 matchup, because don't get me wrong, I think D plus played a great series, but I think the fact that they have Bengi as their coach, I think that tremendously helped them through the series because he was with T1 for so long. I mean, back since the SKT days, and he knows exactly how Faker wants to play the game. Faker's the leader of this team, so I think having him as the coach really helped D plus to be able to succeed in this match. But then at the end of the day, the better players are just on T1, so they ended up rising in Game 5, and they're the ones who won. But I don't want to discredit D plus because I do think they'll win this lower bracket matchup now. But I do think that's one reason why they were able to play T1 so close.
Davis knows ball, Bengi, greatest of all time.
Yep. Well, we're gonna move on from this. We'll have to see how those matches play out. They will start again, I believe, a little bit later on this week. But we'll take a look a little bit at the LPL and LCK. Both of them have had matches going on right now. For LPL, we've seen a lot of the teams starting to move through. We can go ahead and get that bracket thrown up. And maybe LCB first. Yeah. Because we actually did get our two of the 3 LCB teams have qualified. First, PSG Talon. They have brought back Maple in July, and since then they have been making a really good run. They are able to defeat GAM, who was the second LCP team to qualify for MSI. They've knocked them down to the lower bracket. And then, of course, CFO just completely running the LCP. They look like the most dominant force out there in the Pacific. Looking really good.
I believe the only team this year to qualify for every international.
That is exactly correct. And, I mean, we're going to have a lot of fun. Once again, we do get that 6-man roster that just comes and brings a lot of joy, a lot of, craziness to it. Of course, Doggo bringing all the pentas. I think he's gotten multiple pentas this year as well. Maybe he can get one at Worlds, which I think would be a lot of fun to see.
I'm starting to get shades of the past with these teams, and I'm really kind of hoping we get a sneaky, reminiscent Type A Assassins run from one of these teams. Because this region has evolved and leveled up in so many ways, and especially seeing Maple back on that international stage. He's always been a threat, and PSG Talon have always been a team that have outperformed everyone's expectations. So I think that they now come with a certain level of extra respect that teams have to, account for them as far as their region goes. And then Flying Oysters, we've just seen them time and time again just shine this year, and they've fallen a little bit short in certain key matchups. But if they level up just one more time, I think these are real semi-final type contenders that are coming to the stage.
Yeah, I think they've got a lot to prove. My only worry is that now that they've escaped that kind of minor region moniker, and I'm starting to consider them potentially better than a lot of LTA and LEC teams. Maybe only the top teams in LTA and LEC could really compete with these guys. I worry that now we're going to crest the hill and we might get a big stinker this year. I mean. Yeah. That's kind of a reoccurring thing with my predictions is right when I feel like somebody starts to get real good, I just have this desire to be like, let me pull. I'm going to sell when they're at their highest and get my profit when I can. We got the bracket here. This is how they got it. You see CFO and PSG up there in the winners finals. And then it's going to be GAM versus Secret and Mavuki.
Yeah. Mavuki, I think that's how you say that.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just said the letters.
Yeah, so Vikings Esports, will be at the bottom there versus Team Secret Wales. Whoever wins that goes, of course, off. But as I was talking about for LPL has been, the mass amount of games that we have to go through for this. But it will be BLG and Top are now moving into those spots. But for this, we do have to have the top winners. Only the top 2 will qualify for Worlds. So this is a little bit unlike other regions. They will have a regional finals as well to get those last 2 spots to see who gets that 3rd spot as well as who gets the play-in spot for LPL as well, because both LPL and LCK get a 4th spot, and those 2 teams will play each other to see who gets the final spot at Worlds. But as everything was going on, we did have JDG versus Edward Gaming being played at the time. It was JDG who actually took the win over Edward Gaming, so Edward Gaming is now knocked out. Which means that, as you saw on there, we're going to have to set up for our second elimination match, which will be Anyone's Legends, which had the amazing run during the middle of the season versus NIP, which we know NIP has been, kind of gaining speed a little bit now, especially with Doingby in the mid.
Yeah, they lost
Davis.
Never know. Maybe nip.
I do it every week.
They did kind of lose that momentum when they ran into Top in the quarterfinals. So I don't know if they had drawn a better matchup in their first lower bracket match, I could see them making something happen. But AL is a really, really tough opponent to draw this early on. I mean, they shouldn't have lost to freaking Weibo.
Yeah. Right.
And they shouldn't be down here, but they are. So that's the scary part for Doe and B. But maybe you can make it happen.
Yeah, and I want to shout out the LPL region as well. As like you're never guaranteed a world spot, right? So like, you have to always perform, and the fact that you're going into a championship type bracket where your best placing teams are the ones that represent you at worlds, right? They've overcome hurdles. You're not drawing on the past of like, oh well, FlyQuest dominated this season, they won this, and now there's guaranteed worlds. If FlyQuest drop off the map because the drama and Bwipo gets fired or whatever, and then Gankos comes in and he just drops the ball, the team falls apart. I don't want them at Worlds, right? Like I want our best teams at Worlds, and I think the LPL is the region that does that the most consistently every year.
I mean, I'm looking at this, and one of the big things that stands out for me is Beichuan is actually back in. So in their first game, or in their game versus IG, actually, I believe, sorry, JDG, they actually did play Shadow the first game, end up getting beat. They subbed in Beichuan into those our last 4 matches, ended up winning. So of course, we're looking at a team now who's kind of utilizing that 6-man roster, and it looks like it actually is working for them in a sense of whoever's playing best will be playing on the team right now. They are going against Top, who did look the best in the split number 3. I think that'll be a really fun match, but I'm still just looking at this last one, that NIP or AL versus IG should be absolute banger. This is a lower bracket where it is just really hard to predict who is going to come out on top, because a lot of these teams, as you said, are really good, and we're seeing the best out of the LPL right now.
It's really crazy how fast things change too, because just like you were saying with Shadow, like when he was implemented into this team just a couple months ago, like he took over the scene. He was one of the junglers in LPL that was actually able to carry games and change the narrative, and it's like a couple weeks go by and it's like, okay, we're going back to Beichuan. So it's really weird just how fast these teams are able to adapt to each other and just overcome.
Well,
you don't see that in our region.
We do not. Not right now. So we'll have to see how all the rest of the playoff brackets unfold. We'll get some more teams that will be joining us at the World's qualifying spots. More teams will be knocked out. We'll bring all that more in next week's edition. But let's go ahead and jump into our feed. All of us have brought something that we found interesting this week, and we'll start off with J-Dog.
Yeah, so mine is interesting. I made sure that nobody watched this because I wanted to get you guys' real opinions. So this is basically a clip. Bardanet, he's a notorious EU West streamer who you might have been familiar. He was involved with some drama with Agarin a while back. He plays Bard top, and he was doing this thing where like he had support item, and he just like left his lane and did stuff. Right now, he's doing a 0 CS challenge. So he's playing characters up top, and he does not go for CS in any way. You can even see he's got this little like add-on that literally pops up a -1 when he doesn't get the CS. My question for you guys is this cool? Is this content, or is this true griefing and this guy should be banned?
This is big griefing. I mean, like there are interesting challenges, right? Like there's one-trick pony challenges, but you're in a game where passively your gold income is not going to scale that much. Now, he is playing Pike, which is like a little bit extra trolly because you kind of want some AD and you want your armor pin to start to scale and take over the game, and you literally can't get tankier. Right, so I mean, as long as you keep in the XP, like you're staying in there in levels, but you're going to fall off so hard on the team when you don't have key items and key item spikes. You're not going to be able to contribute to key objective fights for the most part. I hope he proves me wrong and makes a big run, but to me, this is griefing.
I know I'm 100% with the griefing there, especially when you see that clip and they're 1-3. Yeah. Like at that point, you are super behind, as you're saying. There's no gain ahead when you already died 3 times. You only have 1 kill, 1 assist on Pike. I don't know what else he's been playing. I haven't really looked into this. This makes me want to look into it more now. But this is a game that fundamentally runs off of gold, and you get gold by CS. That is, one of the biggest mechanical differences between low level players like the Iron and Bronze versus players that get into Plat and above are being able to CS. And if you're actively choosing not to CS, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And I'm not going to say that this person, I don't know them well enough to know if their mechanics are good enough to cover up for it. Obviously, in this clip, they were not.
He's like a challenger level player. He's a good player, and he is climbing. He's higher ranked than all of us in this no CS challenge. So, like skill-wise, it's not an issue.
Yeah.
But
but you're also going against other challengers at that point. And putting yourself at a disadvantage like that is just not, mechanically, he's at the same level as everyone else he's playing against. So it's not going to be able to help him in that, level of gameplay. I don't like it. I think that this should be something that, obviously, I don't know how Riot can address it. But if
it's simple, you ban him.
Well, it's not that complicated. Right. But he's saying that, and if he gets griefed, I mean, what does he say if people, do it? You have 0 CS. Bye. Shout out,
Davis. What do you think?
I think he's griefing. I mean, if you take the content away from this, and you just like if you just looked at this guy's profile and you looked at he has 0 CS, he's getting behind every game, you would be able to clearly tell that he's griefing. So I think the fact that he's recording it and making content makes it no different. Like he's still griefing the game, even if it is a challenge. This is a thing for normals if you want to do it, not ranked.
I agree with you guys, just so we're clear. All right, I didn't bring this because I think that he's justified. I think it's stupid he's doing it for content. He just has seen the notoriety. He sees the numbers go up when he's doing something stupid that people post on Reddit about. And I think Riot should ban him. I think they should. There's a difference between those like support item cheeses that we've seen in the top lane where you don't CS, but you're getting still gold because of the way some weird interaction works. This is different. This is trolling for views. He should be banned.
Yep, I totally agree. And I mean, from griefing the Rift to benefiting the Rift, I wanted to shout out a creator that I saw on Twitter recently. So for my feed, I brought some little DIY love, right, to the Rift. So we got some custom swag, 3D like wall art here from this user. The graphic will come up at any moment. But basically what they do is they create,
wow, it's so beautiful.
They create these champion portraits and they layer these champion borders around. So like your rank borders, your diamond, your bronze, your iron, your challenger, etc. They make all this custom art. Boom, finally we can see it. A little shout out to them, borders.gg. I think this is super cool to have this loading screen there. I will most likely put an order in with them because I appreciate wall art. And I might get a challenger border. I hope that what they do is I hope what
they don't actually check.
I hope they don't check the rank. If they check the rank, then I'm stuck. But if I can get a challenger like Pike border or something like that, or a Blitzcrank, I mean, it would just be perfect. And
you wouldn't go for a fiddle?
Fiddle will be my. So what I want to do. Here's my vision. Okay, my in-game vision is I want to buy one per role. And so Fiddle will be my jungle slot. Because Fiddle, when I started playing League, that was my first jungler that I started playing was Fiddlesticks. So that's like a little bit of memory. I bought his skins first. It's my first debt investment purchase. Birthday party Fiddlesticks to be specific. And so I've just kind of.
Was it on your birthday?
No. It would have been perfect though.
Yeah.
They should actually give out birthday party Fiddlesticks to account
on birthdays.
Yeah.
Well, you get it once, and then.
Well, yeah,
nice. It would challenge them to make more birthday parties.
Do you think? I bet if they did that, I bet every new account, or not every new account, a large portion of new accounts, their birthday would be the day after they make their account.
Yes.
Start with the Fiddle account. No, I think this is dope. This is really cool. I can see people doing this. I can see us convincing Dylan to buy 5 of them for the 5 team people.
Yeah.
And honestly, yeah, I mean, if you purchase it, if anybody else purchases it, use code queued up at checkout. For a discount.
Yeah, I don't think it'll do anything. But yes, use that code. Let them know you want the code.
Yeah, watch it work. Turns out one Yanu is one of our viewers.
Yeah.
I definitely think that League over the years always has some amazing creators for like different items. You know, they always put a lot of thought into it. It's just the great thing about League being a game that's been here for so long is people can come out with such cool ideas like this. I absolutely love it. Honestly, Battle Bunny, Admiral Misfortune, I'd love to get that as one. We're talking about the check rank. Maybe I can get TFT Masters, and you know how it tricks you if you go into normals?
Yeah.
You can have the TFT rank come up as Masters. Maybe I'll just do that so I can get the Masters border around for mine. I absolutely love it. I think it's great.
I'm right there with you. I think it's cool.
I think we should be able to use my rank from a different
game. No, it doesn't work that way.
Back, my Paladin's rank. Yeah, I'll take a GM border.
From all of us Iron people here, Chris, you're bringing some news from the Challenger region.
I am. So we have talked about some good and bad things going on. One great thing is that, Umpty unfortunately had to leave, Team Liquid because of some mental health issues. They want to look after him. Luckily, I think the rate spawn did it. It allowed Umpty to be able to stay in the league and continue to do league content. He has now announced that he will actually be doing the analyst desk for Korean TV, not just like Twitch or Africa, their streaming platform, but he'll be actually doing it on their TV channel, NBC. So I think it's really great that he's sticking with league. He's still, contributing to league because obviously he was a great player. And now he's, bringing us analyst desk. He's going to give us top tier commentary for their TV channel. They had just recently signed as well a big contract with TV so that they'll be putting all their final games and a lot more of their games on broadcasted TV now. So it's really great to see that he's still doing league stuff because we've known in the past some players who've, fallen off. They, just don't ever return to league because of mental health issues.
Yep, totally agree with you. I mean, I think it's a beautiful story for Umpty. It's unfortunate that his career ended. It kind of reminds me back on the Cloud9 days of High, right? An unfortunate early retirement because of wrist problems. And so it's great that Umpty's found a new place and he's helping better the esports scene in general by in Korean TV, it's a lot more normalized. But if that catches fire, then maybe some like American news networks will want to reinvest again. We used to be on like ESPN 3 or 4, whatever. So it's just a cool trend to start, and I'm glad that Umpty, who was previously in the LTA, is going there and kind of representing all these regions as a whole, right on the screen.
I like this a lot too. One, because like you said, with high, it's sometimes better to have like a clear cut into your career than to like drag things out and struggle for a while. Sometimes having that just like clear cutoff can be really beneficial. And another reason I really like this is because like specifically in Korea, they have a very strict culture around like working hard, not admitting any struggles or like issues like this. So to see someone like Umpty who went through such a public struggle like that in the LTA still be accepted, given opportunities to show his things, almost kind of like advocates for a nice change in potential culture that they have there. So there could be some real positive change also in the general scheme of things, not just for Umpty.
I think it's great for him too, because obviously he didn't want to. He loves League of Legends, and he doesn't want to like be completely separated from it for the rest of his life. And obviously, like you said, unfortunate that his career had to end early, but really good for him to just navigate around and find his spot, somewhere that he can be comfortable again and still be around the game and still push it forward. So great to be on the analyst desk.
I also love when an analyst has the potential and the skill behind him to even maybe like dice up someone. Like when Umpty's giving feedback on a jungler, like especially if it's like an LCK challenger or someone, it's like, that feedback's good. I mean, if he wanted to, he could probably suit up and take your spot. Like, Umpty's not bad. I mean, he was a great personality, a great player. Got wins on. I mean, they took games off T1 less than 6 months ago. So, like, this guy's.
I agree with you, and I don't want to like drag the topic on too long, but your point inspired me. It's like, yeah, you think about it, you look at Into the Smoke, right, where Davis just showed those analysts are all former pro players, right, and it's like those guys are deadly, and the more analysts and esports legends we have evolve out of the scene here and go to that, you're exactly right. Like they're gonna be able to break down your gameplay that you're gonna feel like you have to evolve and step up. Otherwise, like they're just gonna call you out, and they know, right, because they've been in their shoes or they could take your spot, whatever it may be. But just a beautiful point. I just wanted to reemphasize that.
So jumping over to mine now for the feed, we have a little bit of a controversial thing, maybe, I think. We're talking about 100 Thieves, but I'm not buying the hype. I know they've made a great run through this lower bracket, but this team is not that good. This is the 8th place team from the LTA North, man. And the big thing, when we look right here.
Tied for 7th.
Yeah, sorry. Technically 8.
I said they were 8th earlier, too.
Still 8. But anyway, they did have some tough matches in their first 3. Obviously, they played Shopify, Cloud9, and Toast, 2 teams that they have beat in the recent weeks. But if we go here to the next bracket, the thing that stands out to me is all 3 of these games were the same weekend. They had the momentum. They played back-to-back-to-back days. And I think that's the reason for this run that they made. I think giving them a little bit of time to think about it, teams to study their gameplay, what they're doing, it'll go right back to where they were. I think they're a mid-tier team. I don't think they're the 8th place team from our region. Don't get me wrong with that. But I do think they're somewhere around 5 or 6. I don't think that they're this second team. I think it's a lot of hype, and they beat Liquid and they beat Lion in the other 2 rounds of the lower bracket in the playoffs. And those are 2 games that I expect them to win looking at this. But then you look at the upsets. Yes, it's great, but I think it's all the weekend momentum riding that.
Clarifying question for you. When you say you're not buying the hype, does that mean that you don't think 100 Thieves will be a relevant team at Worlds? Or does that mean that you don't think they'll even beat the LTA South teams? Like, are they going to lose to Red?
No, I don't think they're going to lose the LTA South. I think what's going to happen is Shopify and 100 Thieves will win their game. I think Shopify will then beat 100 Thieves, and they'll be that team that ends up going.
I want to buy that because I agree with you that Shopify should have beat 100 Thieves, but the reality is 100 Thieves smoked them, and it didn't even look close. And so I do think that this 100 Thieves team has leveled up in a certain way, but there is an interesting conversation around have they leveled up or have Cloud9 and Shopify broken down? Right?
Yeah.
And have we now just established a more dominant lead from FlyQuest in this region, and really the middle of the pack just grew and just lumped in Shopify and Cloud9? I don't think we have enough gameplay and like data to back that up yet, but I'm really interested to see this run, and I only disagree with you on the Shopify thing because specifically of Dhokla. And I think that, we'll talk about it here in a bit, but Dhokla, he has something to prove right now. And he has to make a statement. If he goes here and he drops the ball early, Dhokla will be the laughingstock, and Bwipo's right.
I think you're right that the win over C9 was because C9 fell apart. I think Shopify lost because they've almost always been fell apart. I don't see a world where Shopify, no, I just disagree with it, Davis, where Shopify beats 100 Thieves. Mid-jungle is just like Quid and River are just like compared to Palafox and actually I love Contracts. He's one of my favorite junglers, but it just doesn't really work great for him right now. That portion is just such a big advantage for them. I think also you've talked about Dhokla having something to prove. There's a lot of discussion going on about what River's future is going to be post 100 Thieves. A lot of people are expecting him to go back to Korea and enroll in the military because he has his required military service. So he could have even more to prove than Dhokla. No drama really associated with it, but the potential 2-year break that could come, this could be his almost last hurrah of sorts. You don't know. You expect to have a career when you come back, but you don't know for sure.
Right. And I'm directly on this. I think, Contracts, as you said, is a great player, but River has been a dominant force in these matches leading up until he finally played against Inspired. And that is, the top tier of jungler in almost the West right now. And he has been outsmiting people, out team fighting people, out rotating people, but Quid also, it's just been, I don't know. I don't think Palafaker. I don't think we're gonna see Palafaker. That's it. Palafox just got dominated by Quid. I think it's gonna happen again. I don't think anyone else, as much as B-Boy, I think has been leveling up throughout the LTA this year. I don't think he is enough to really push Shopify Rebellion into that spot to be able to take it because FBI.
I think that's the best shot they've got though. Is the bottom.
Right, and that's what when you're taking 2 roles compared just to the 1 role, I think those 2 roles are gonna come out dominant right now. Unless Fudge can really step up against Dhokla and make that top lane, somewhere River has to, consistently get to help out, and then that bot lane can really take over the game. I just don't see it happening.
An interesting thing about this is we obviously we don't know who's bringing what for the feed, so I didn't know Davis was bringing this, but we're going to get a lot of information in this next segment about who really sides with what once we see everybody's fantasy teams, because all this exact matchup is who we were picking between.
Yeah, totally agree. So we are going to, actually, that's a great segue.
Yeah.
LTA Fantasy is up next. So I'm up first, right? Let's talk about my fantasy league. I've said it on the show. I've said it in DMs. I've said it in meetings. I do not believe in the LTA South at all. So my fantasy roster, I didn't pick a single person from the LTA South. We're all in. We got Contracts, we got Palafox, we got FBI, and we got Elia in the bot lane, and I picked Dhokla in the top lane.
Wow.
Yeah,
you picked the two mid jungle that me and Chris just took 3 minutes to just rag on. That's hilarious.
So I took Contracts and Palafox. I believe that they are going to step up. And now keep in mind, this is not them facing each other. They're facing the LTA South right now. This would look different if they were facing each other, but I'm all in on LTA.
And it is only the match they're playing against the LTA South.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll go ahead and take a look at mine then, because I went pretty similar on mine. We'll have it brought up here. Although I was a little bit different on mine. So I had to fit. So I was trying so hard. I was talking with Davis about this, trying to get River to fit in. Unfortunately, I think
Y'all been colluding?
What?
Y'all been colluding?
We got to bring down the Dhokla.
But
we got to catch J-Dog somehow.
True.
Yeah. So Dhokla, of course, in the talk, I think he's just a solid, choice to pick in there. Contracts I picked in over River because I was missing 0.3 points to try to get River into mine. Quid, I think it's just going to get me the most amount of points. FBI has been solid, and of course, Seos as well to fit in to make sure that I could get Quid.
Going into me next, go ahead and pull mine up. So mine's very, very similar to everybody else. I think I actually had those 3 points, though, Chris. So I got him in my roster. I got him in mine. We got Dhokla, we got River, we got Quid, and then I got the Shopify bot lane. I think they've been tremendous, and I think they're just going to roll their matchup.
I'm feeling so validated. Not a single LTA South pick. The doghouse. Where's his stock points?
Let's see. I think you're going to be surprised to find that it's very similar to you guys. I actually can't even remember which group of 4 I got, but I did a group of 4 and 1. Yeah, there we go. So all 400 Thieves players and then B-Boy. I kind of thought I might be the only one doing this. So it's so funny that we all went this route. But I think objectively, it's the right thing. And I'll be honest, as the leader, I'm happy. That means that like if someone had gone all in on LTA South like Eli did last week, they might have a big potential ground to gain up on me. But since we all went very similar, I don't know so much. We also do have Eli's team to check out. He is actually I don't even know what part of the world that Halo tournament's in, but he's where?
I think it's Utah.
They're off in.
They're out in Utah.
He's 4-stack Shopify. So kind of the opposite of you. Yeah, it's a really interesting pick here. I'm actually really surprised. I expected people to go LTA South a little bit. And what I've learned here is that if LTA South does sweep this, we all suck.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You know?
Our point totals are going to be terrible
yeah.
with that.
We're going to get a lot of messages on Twitter.
Griffin's gone, so I lost my LTA South, shoe-in for there. Unfortunately, just I don't feel as good with some of their games coming off with just their matchups. We talked about this earlier in that segment, so if you, for some reason, skip to this segment first, go back and watch our first segment as to why we have picked a lot of these teams going into our LTA Fantasy. But of course, you still have 2-3 more weeks left of LTA Fantasy. If
This
you
week
still want
and
to
then 2
join
more,
in,
3 total.
Make sure you go to ltafantasy.com and join in. But you can look at our standings here. Of course, as we were talking about, the Dog Pound is still on first. I mean, just sweeping us.
60-point
I
gap.
know, bro. Every week it keeps getting farther and farther. I can't stand it.
Yeah, and I've been holding last place down firm. Now, I did miss 2 weeks, but that excuse is kind of passed. I'm getting beat every week. It's not even close. J-Dog is
J-Dog's been smoking, I
stocks
swear.
here.
It's all about consistency. It's all about consistency.
Yeah, so if you're trying to compete in LTA Fantasy at home and you see this, pick his picks.
Yeah. No, but I do think I looked at it because I was bored this weekend. You actually have the highest single week score. Like you peaked slightly higher than me. I think you had a 135. I had a 131. So you have had the best single week pick. Just not.
It's not consistently throughout. Yeah.
You'll be in from week 1 next
Consistency is
year.
key.
It's like I'm pulling Pokemon packs, right? Like I'm negative 2,000, but I get that one card worth $200, and I'm like, yeah, we hit, baby. We're good. It's time to rip some more.
Get that framed.
Yeah.
Definitely. We have to make sure we get it so that next time when we do this, we have a little more consequences and rewards for those coming out. Maybe the border. Maybe if somehow Kepley can pull out that first place miracle run just out of nowhere where J-Dog misses the next 3 weeks or something like that, we can give him his border as a reward there. But of course, LTAfantasy.com, if you want to play those last couple of weeks, make sure to do so. Hopefully, Riot will bring it back so we have something to rag on each other about.
Maybe I just won't lock in my team for the next few weeks, and J-Dog wins for sure, so Eli has to dress up as the caster.
That is very true.
Yeah.
We do have the caster minion that we have to dress up Eli, but...
Caster minion? I thought we said clown. What?
No, it's a caster.
Caster.
Last week
That was the previous fantasy that we did was the clown suits. That was Seth. Seth
Oh
Long.
yeah, he hasn't paid off.
Yeah, he hasn't paid off yet. We don't forget.
There's so many options. I mean, the viewers could give us some recommendations in the comment. I mean, we could do the winner gets something. We could do like the bottom 2 have to 1v1 and the loser has a real punishment. Like there's so many different possibilities.
We'll have to see though. But let's move on. There's been a lot going on in League of Legends, in the competitive scene, and everywhere else right now. But let's go ahead and jump straight into it. As Kepa has alluded to a couple times right now, there has been some drama going on. We're going to start off at the very beginning here with a little bit past the KBBQ drama, but Dhokla, Bwipo have been kind of going at it with each other here. Bwipo having some choice words about Dhokla's career, and then Dhokla, of course, standing on his business as well. No fist bumps given during those grand finals.
Before or after.
Before or after, yep. Not during the banner holding or afterwards. And, it's just, we're going to start off with just this drama first.
Yeah,
we're going to
there's
go
a
into
lot.
some other after. Don't worry, we're going to get into the whole timeline here. But personally, I don't mind this kind of drama. I think that if 2 players are going at each other, as Kepa said, it kind of just really leaves you to allow teams to, have something to really fight for. And I think we need more of it. It gives some good storylines here.
I think we need more of it in some aspects, but I think that there was a certain point in this Bwipo versus Dhokla drama where I felt like it got to a point where Bwipo was just like kind of brutally punching down. Like, I don't know anything about Dhokla. I don't know what kind of struggles he's been through. So like the fist bumping and stuff I thought was all good fun. And then the day after when he came on stream and he was like, he started it off with like a half-hearted apology. I covered this a bunch on Rapid Recap this week, so I'm very updated on it. He like very half-heartedly apologized, but then like 20 minutes later just continued to rag on Dhokla's career and how like Dhokla wouldn't even consider doing a role swap to make his team better, like Bwipo has done twice. So I think Bwipo is he might be getting a little wild, little out of line. But if we can keep it in a nice positive, I think talk people before the game and then once after, let it ride. Let the play talk.
I think Bwipo has a lot of similarities to like me, where I can be very direct and I just like, it is what it is, right? Like, and I think that Dhokla, the history of Dhokla's career, his journey has been lackluster, right? Like, there's just not a better way to put it. He started in the LTA North with Optic Gaming, 7th, 8th place finish. He then goes to CLG as kind of like his another big uprising. CLG falls down to the relegation bracket. CLG gets eliminated entirely with Dhokla at the helm. You then come back, he's on our NRG. They make that kind of miracle world run. They upset G2. They fall to one of the LPL teams. I think it was Weibo, right? He hasn't ever been a top performer of his team. Even when they do have successful seasons, his kill participation's super low. He isn't super involved in the team fight, and he's often overshadowed, right, by these other stars. Like there was a time, and I believe it was Optic, when he's with Palafox, he's with FBI, right? He's, I think, contracts on the team. He's with these huge names now, and Dhokla is just like a speck in the pan of that. And there's no jab towards him. He has a style. To me, he's Impact, but worse, right? He is very consistent on a tank role. And in a lot of his best seasons, best placing seasons, he has negative wins on all his champions except Cassante, right? Like his Cassante, he normally performs well on. So you know you can put him on that. But clearly results say, I can't put him in a carry position, and he's never going to take over the game, and he's going to shine like that. So I think Bwipo's criticism is fair because it comes from a place that you want to evolve the league to be better, right? And that's ultimately what we do, right? Every week is we come on the show, and it's easy to talk about FlyQuest dominating every week. It's easy to say that 100 Thieves is, going on this miracle run. It was easy week after week to say Cloud9 would dominate these matchups 3-0, but now we've evolved to a place where, like, we need more top teams, right? We need Dignitas to step up. We need Lion to step up. I was big on the Lion hype train, and Lion fell flat here. We need these teams to evolve, and the only way to do that, in my opinion, is through open criticism of these players, and they have to be open to make their team better.
See, I guess I think it's fair, and yeah, your assessment of Dokla's career is accurate. I just don't understand why Bwipo feels the need to publicly make that. Like, I don't know if Dhokla was comparing his career to Bwipo's. I don't know if any fans were saying Dhokla is a better top laner than Bwipo. And I think there's a difference between us going on a podcast like this and talking about it and making those things, and like a competitor just saying that crap on stream for really no reason.
I mean, you see it in Counter-Strike all the time, right? You see it in other esports where even the analysts will, like, you come off the game, you just lost, and Pimp or Sponge or someone are going to look at the other competitor and be like, hey, you had a crap series, right? Like, how do you feel about it? What could your team have done better? How can you evolve from this point? And, like, that's the questions we need to be asking, is we need to be able to say, like, hey, yes, you didn't perform here. This tweet is for something later, so we're going to go ahead and
pull that off.
We'll take that down, but we'll get to that. But you need to be able to have those hard conversations with these teams and that open dialogue between players so you can create storylines, you can create these narratives that draw viewers in. And the biggest thing that will happen for this LTA championship viewership, in my opinion, and I would love to hear you guys too, is if finals is FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves. It will blow viewership off the charts purely because of Bwipo versus Dhokla. Otherwise, everyone's just going to think FlyQuest is going to win. But everyone wants to buy in and invest in the story of Dhokla making the run to Worlds, Dhokla upsetting Bwipo and sending him down to a lower seed at Worlds, and then Bwipo has to prove himself to get back to Dhokla at Worlds. I think the story would feed families.
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely fine with it too, as long as it stays in the game. I mean, the thing that I always think about with stuff like this and competitive trash talk is, like, you look at boxing and you look at, like, UFC, and it's like they do the press conference before these matches to build up the hype, to allow you to create these narratives, to talk trash to the other person, to make them motivated to want to beat you. And so I'm all for it. I think it's I think you can take it too far to an extent. And I think your point is very interesting too, of, like, how it all started. Like, why did Bwipo start coming at Dhokla? Because I don't know, and I wish there was a clear-cut way of, like, why Bwipo was saying this about him, because I do think there is an actual reason. I don't think he just randomly said it.
From looking at the context of it, it was almost like analysts were giving Dhokla some credit for 100 Thieves' success. Like, by proxy of 100 Thieves making that big turnaround from 8th to 2nd, they were giving Dhokla credit, and I guess Bwipo just took exception to that. He kind of clarified on his stream that there was obviously some serious personal bias. He did not like the way General Sniper got moved off the thing. He same as me, same as earlier in the show, admitted that he didn't know actually what went on the inside. But he's coaching Gakgos in a similar position, and he said there's no world where I would let the org bench that player who I'm mentoring and put me in. So I think that was the root of it, but still not true.
Yeah, and people favor opinions of, like, the professionals, right? So, like, all throughout the split, we've seen Bwipo. At least I'm sure there's other examples, but Bwipo comes to mind where the analysts are asking, hey, what's your opinion on these other top laners? And Bwipo's, like, slamming Disguise top laner, like whoever that even was back in Split 1. And it's just, Bwipo has often been the one he disagrees with me, right? Like, he puts a lot of stock in Impact, and I think Impact's horrible, right? And that's okay because that's part of like how you view the game and how you analyze the game. I just think the conversation is overall for the greater good, but I do agree with you guys that it shouldn't get like they shouldn't be attacking each other's like family or personal life.
And he took so much offense to not getting the fist bump, talking about a lot about sportsmanship. But in my opinion, part of sportsmanship is being a humble winner. It's not punching down against a clearly worse player than you after you win. It's not about constantly flaming people who are worse than you who are trying to make that comeback. So
do you put both fist bumps together? Like for me, I'm okay with the opening match. You don't fist bump, but I kind of feel it's bad on Dhokla for the ending one.
no, I'm the exact opposite actually. I think that if you feel strongly enough not to want to fist bump somebody on the walkout, stay that same way post the game. You can give him credit. You know, if you interview me after, I would say, yep, he was better than me on the riff today, but I don't like the guy. I'm not going to extend a courtesy to someone I don't like.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, Dhokla has, his opinions. He's obviously going to say with his. If Bwipo wants to say what he says, Dhokla really kind of just said what he wanted to say with not doing the fist bumps, and I'm going to agree with it. And I think those parts, kind of what J-Dog was alluding to, you don't bring that into the stream really afterwards, or maybe you can just kind of touch on a little bit, but don't really go into big detail. But I think Dhokla not doing that, as I was saying, kind of brings up a hype, as you said. And if they get into those grand finals once again, then it really brings up this narrative, especially if he's able to beat him. But if Dhokla's not happy with Bwipo, that's fine if he doesn't want to show it. I believe not being, don't be fake. Be your true self into that. And I think that does help with the LTA narrative a little bit because it was a little bit boring without some of this happening. And it gives, some teams things to fight for, especially a player, as we've kind of said, that 100 Thieves is on its last leg. These players need to make themselves known going into next split so that they can get picked up or whatever happens with their career afterwards. Dhokla has had a decent showing, but stand on business. Don't do those fist bumps if you don't want to.
The interesting part about this is that it doesn't just end here. It goes into the next level, which maybe even like not exemplifies, maybe exonerates Dhokla in some aspects. Bwipo continues on in this stream, gets kind of debated by a random chat message from a random person asking his opinion on why there aren't as many women in pro esports. And he goes on a long rant that many regard as sexist. He ends up, we'll get some people's opinions on this. The end up fallout is that FlyQuest has suspended him for their first championship series. The match against Keat Stars, Bwipo is not going to be playing in. They're going to be donating his prize money from the LTA championship as well. But Kep, you were kind of involved in this situation, not in the actual stream or anything, but in the fallout, you weighed in on your opinion.
Yeah, my first pop-off tweet of all time, and what a heck of a tweet. But for me, it's like context is king here, and I agree with the overall sentiment. And a lot of people, man, a lot of people have been bashing me in these comments, and I try to go back to them. Is like, we want to have a respectful dialogue. I watched this clip and listened to it. I got extra opinions on this. I don't think that intentionally Bwipo had any malice or like ill will towards anyone here. The context around all these, like what I call clickbait titles or whatever, like these snippets of his text. Yes, in that vacuum, those statements totally suck. They do borderline become sexist. Like, I'm not educated enough to say what's the line in the sand of a mistake versus sexist. I'm not going to make that mistake. But I do think that his general opinion and thought was well-intentioned, but came off poorly. A lot of the context was, well, I think women don't get enough support in the esports scene. And I also think that, women, when they are on, their menstrual cycles, and some of them handle stress different than others, right? That they need these extra support systems, and then it just went downhill from there, right? I think he became overgeneralized where he was saying, oh, get on your alt account or whatever, right? And that's the stuff where it's like, hey, Bwipo, man, you call a spade, that was stupid. Yeah. Right? Don't say that. I understand you were trying to say some good stuff and you were trying to have good intentions behind it, but so many people are trying to cancel this guy or whatever term you want to use and call for his head, and it's he made a mistake. We're all human. We all make mistakes. The important thing is that you take this mistake, you evolve, and you learn from it. And if Bwipo truly does care about evolving women being interactive with esports, this should be a good learning experience. And I don't want this whole community backlash to overcorrect him, and then he's scared to speak on it in the future to try to better the scene if that is his real goal. Only time will tell.
I'm going to say I do hope it scares him, and I hope it scares other people into not speaking out about something that they do not have experience with. He says he has experience living with someone, but he has not been through that exact thing. He's only saying the experience of what he had with that one person he lived with, and I think that is really unfair to everyone else that unfortunately he did generalize women, and he's saying that they need this account that they have to go into, and I think this is the biggest problem. If he had literally just stopped at they don't get support, it would have been a banger. But he had us in the first half, and then he continued to go on after. My biggest gripe with this, though, is the fact that I don't feel the punishment is actually a punishment for it. I think what he said was sexist. We have obviously seen from many of females that are in Riot Spirit in League of Legends that contribute a lot to the scene felt disrespected by what he said. And if they are feeling disrespected by what he said, then that's the bottom line for it for me. And so getting one game ban off of a game that doesn't matter because your team is already going to Worlds, and then you have the chance to come back and still make it to Grand Finals to get the highest seeding doesn't feel like an impactful punishment in my terms. I feel like it should be extended into Worlds. Gecko should be playing the entirety of that LTA championship, and then maybe he misses one. Of course, we haven't seen what Riot has to say about it, if they say anything about it yet. But my just 2 cents is I've looked over it, and I want, there was part of me that was like, oh, maybe we should try to play devil's advocate. I couldn't find any way to do it. I don't think he had the ill intentions. I don't think he was trying to be sexist. I think he just started talking about something that he doesn't actually have experience with, that he thinks he does, and it just kind of derailed from there.
One thing that I feel bad about in this situation that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, I feel bad for his ex-girlfriend, because when he said, like, in my experience living with a woman, it wasn't living with like, he was talking about one woman, and like, for her to be the reason why he doesn't think women are able to compete in esports. I mean, I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but it almost felt like it could have been like almost an attack, like a jab at his ex-girlfriend that, like, he didn't mean to come out, but came out in a weird way, and then things started changing. So I do feel a little bit bad for the people who are both Bwipo and her, who are like actually directly involved in the situation.
Yeah, I actually believe saw her tweet out about it, and of course she, is very rational about what she's saying. She, of course, I'd have to like refine it and show it to you guys there, but it's just one of the things that, as I was saying, it's just that one experience doesn't mean you experience it. You're just, seeing through your lens of what you're perceiving, that partner at the time, the ex-partner now, to be going through, and then you say all this stuff. And granted, it has blown up into some crazy, crazy memes that have come out from multiple different sources. Last night we had Double Lift streaming saying that he was on his period account, playing. We've had Sharks, putting out a fake patch notes for women about, stuff on this. And I think people, some people are trying to go in it, but then, and have like jokes off of it. But then you, of course, have Azale, who has come in and said that there are, women who could have made tier 1 that don't get the chance because of people perceiving them to have actions like this that would affect them from going pro. And then we've never seen anyone go pro, a female go pro in League of Legends because of stuff like this happening.
My thing, the only thing that I've had a problem with from this whole conversation is the part when you said you wanted people to feel scared to speak up. And that's where I draw the line. And it's like, people should speak up because it's his experience, and that's exactly what he's experienced through life. Whether you think it's the right thing or not, it's what he's experienced. And you always have to talk to your experience so we can learn as people, and so we can be educated, and so we can say, this is what I've been through. I haven't been through what the other people have been through. This is my experience. This is what I'm going to talk to. And you shouldn't be scared to speak up about that. We live in a free country with free speech, and you should be able to speak about it. There's been a lot of stuff going on with that recently, and you have to be able to be okay with other people having different opinions than you, and us drawing a ground to where we can learn and grow together. It shouldn't be trying to form my views to be the same as you because it's going to be accepted by more people. This is my view. How can you help me grow as a person?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, in a scene that's so dominated by men, eventually you're going to have men that do speak out to try to dictate and try to drive for this change, to drive for betterment. Like they're just the allies in the fight, right? And Bwipo, just to go back to him, like he in my opinion, he had good intentions. Yes, like in a silo, all the stuff was bad. But then one point that I want to touch on with you that I actually disagree with, and I'm going to fully admit that I'm a part of this problem because I also enjoy the memes. I think they're funny. But to me, the memes are the problem, right? Because if this is such a serious situation and this is something that you want to take seriously and you don't want people to joke about, well, people like Double Lift and people who are making these memes are completely making this a laughing stock to where it's not serious. It's not a serious topic anymore. So the memes, like, yes, they're funny. Yes, we're going to be eating good with memes for a while, and Bwipo's never going to be able to live this down probably. But the memes do not help evolve that this is a serious discussion where we'd like to see more females get involved in esports. And
I think the memes do help. I think what the memes are doing is they're showing that this is not a serious discussion. They're showing that, like, I mean, we can just disagree on it. I don't even think it was from a great place. I think it was misguided and was just weird. So I don't think that. And I think when you make fun of it, like, I don't think it's like we're not laughing with Bwipo in this regard with the memes. We're clearly laughing at him.
Well, I mean, I think as a player with him that's had plenty of mental health issues himself, he's coming from a place where he knows exactly what he's talking about, how there's not support for players. And don't get me wrong, I think his wording was terrible, but his ultimate intent was to say there is not enough support for players that are having bad mental health. Obviously, he dove into the women's side of it and said a bunch of wrong things, but his intention was to say that there's not support for players that are in bad mental health situations. We've seen that with Umti, we've seen that with other players, and it's true.
I think you can say whatever intentions you want for people, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day what your intentions are if what you come out and say is derogatory to what you are saying. And he can say, I want to say my experience, but as I said before, none of us here are women. None of us have to go through any of that. So us saying anything on that and trying to say this is our experience through going through it, it's just completely, should be invalidated at that point. And yes, he can have an opinion, but his opinion can be wrong. And he can say whatever he wants, but you have freedom of speech, you have freedom of consequence afterwards as well. And I think right now, this should be a learning point for people that, yes, you can have your opinion, but you have to realize that the consequences that come after it are going to be what they should be. And I don't think the consequences right now for it are exactly fair.
I agree with you in that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
People can think whatever they want to think. I just right now think that what I'm saying for people should be scared to say what they think is because I think if they don't think ahead of time, it's just going to hurt. And that's, the bottom line.
Yeah, and I want to make one last statement just to end on a note that I think we can all get behind. I agree with you. We won't have that experience, so we can't speak to it. But someone who does have this experience very well is Shox, and Shox has been one of the biggest public speakers on this issue. Shox has a great video out on it, her feelings and the way that women are impacted. I highly recommend that everyone go watch that.
That was the best one I've seen.
And everyone get educated through that video. Yeah, there are mistakes and everyone will learn, but I mean, you're
four dudes on a podcast. Yeah. We're not gonna be the ultimate sources of truth.
Yeah, but Shox will speak to that better than I ever will. And we are a bit over time, guys. So thank you for sticking around this long. We do have one more topic.
Yep, one more topic.
You got one more thing?
You're right.
I
want to get into this good one, yeah.
Yeah, we got one more topic.
Man, this is
you want to
sad.
end it on a good note?
Sad.
Oh no, a bad
it's
note.
Not a
it's
good
a bad
note.
note.
I forgot what it was.
It was okay, sad for me at least.
Yeah.
But no C9, no TL since what, 2013 here that we're getting for Worlds?
Yeah.
Long time. Longer than I can remember.
Look at that. Yes.
I can't even count that high.
C9 wasn't even at the time. I believe this was kind of closer to around
2020 was the no sneaky, no worlds year?
Yeah, no sneaky, no
Yeah,
worlds.
I mean, 2013 is High, Medios, Lemon Nation, Sneaky.
Balls.
Yeah, you got balls, man.
Yeah. Dude, I was literally in middle school that last time.
Crazy.
That's wild.
You were giggling about Balls' username. It's understandable. That's so funny.
I was literally in middle
But
school.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's such a wild series that we're here, and Cloud9's not at Worlds. Liquid, like, hey, whatever. I'm a Liquid hater, bro. I'm gonna die. I'm not surprised, right? But the C9, huge surprise. Number 2 in the region, arguably number 1 for most of the year, and then they just completely fall off and fall flat. I know all those players and staff are disappointed.
And they're in a really complicated position roster-wise, too. They have all 5 of these players locked down to the end of 2027. Yeah. So if you do want to make changes because of how bad this season turned out, you're going to have to take a big financial hit or, I don't know, hope that someone just wants to end their contract and not get paid for fun. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that we've probably got this Cloud9 roster for the next 2 years.
It's so fun not getting my pay.
Jack, make them buy out contract.
Jack, we love you. I'll do the workouts for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of sucks. Just have notable names not coming. Bound to happen sooner or later, eventually.
Blue.
Yeah. But I mean, one thing maybe we can end the note on a little bit is that we are looking at some very good teams, possibly from NA, from LTA going. Vivo has looked pretty good. FlyQuest looks decent, depending on what happens.
I like FlyQuest. FlyQuest is where the buck stops for me.
I personally, I kind of am hoping 100 Thieves do get their last 2 Raw.
Oh, I do too.
They did for a while try to put in a lot of work into the scene. They did try to make an impact. Obviously, what's happening at 100 Thieves with the financial woes that they're going through, it's hitting a little bit hard, and it probably contributed to this team being taken out from last year. At least they did get this provisional spot for at least one more season, and they're kind of making the most of it at the end. Kind of hope they make it, but I'm not no Sneaky, no Worlds. I got to scream that out in Sneaky's chat when we saw them get eliminated over the weekend. So at least I could use that meme once. But
there'd be a lot of good heist memes and heist narratives at Worlds if they do make it. I think that alone would be worth the 100 Thieves trip to Shanghai.
Yeah,
China,
Shanghai, Beijing, Chengdu, whatever you want to call it. They're going if they get there.
Somewhere over there.
It's a full
across the pond.
I mean, I bet they want to go. So it's a full, China,
tour
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All my hype is in 100 Thieves. I want them to ride the hype wave all the way to Worlds. That's the biggest reason that I want to kick.
You don't mess with Davis
from earlier. Yeah.
That's why he won't be here next week.
Yeah, that's why we're kicking him off the show. But if 100 Thieves does drop the ball, bro, like you're getting a segment on the show next week. You just bust out the production.
Well, yeah, we'll just let him step in.
They didn't deserve a segment. They're the last place team in the split.
Chris, take us home.
Yeah, we'll have to see, though. I mean, let us know who you think will be taking that third place spot for the LTA, because obviously here we are a little bit mixed on it. But we'll continue to bring up all the updated information for League of Legends in the coming weeks as we head to Worlds, as well as if any more drama pops up. We'll make sure to bring it to you as well. Make sure you check out our rapid recap, Alt tab, Today in Esports. We will see you again next time.